And this legislation met that test. And too many senators failed theirs. I've heard some say that blocking this step would be a victory. And my question is, a victory for who? A victory for what? All that happened today was the preservation of the loophole that lets dangerous criminals buy guns without a background check. That didn't make our kids safer. Victory for not doing something that 90% of Americans. %80 of Republicans, the vast majority of your constituents wanted to get done? It begs the question, who are we here to represent? I've heard folks say that having the families of victims lobby for this legislation was somehow misplaced. A prop, somebody called them. Emotional blackmail. Some outlet said. Are they serious? Do we really think that thousands of families whose lives have been shattered by gun violence don't have a right to weigh in on this issue? Do we think their emotions, their loss is not relevant to this debate? So all in all, this was a pretty shameful day for Washington. But this effort is not over. I want to make it clear to the American people we can still bring about meaningful changes that reduce gun violence. So long as the American people don't give up on it. Even without Congress, my administration will keep doing everything it can to protect more of our communities. We're going to address the barriers that prevent states from participating in the existing background check system. We're going to give law enforcement more information about lost and stolen guns so it can do its job. We're going to help to put in place emergency plans to protect our children in their schools. But we can do more if Congress gets its act together. And if this Congress refuses to listen to the American people and pass common sense gun legislation. Then the real impact is going to have to come from the voters. To all the people who supported this legislation, law enforcement and responsible gun owners, Democrats and Republicans. Urban moms, rural hunters, whoever you are, you need to let your representatives in Congress know that you are disappointed. And that if they don't act this time, you will remember come election time. To the wide majority of NRA households who supported this legislation. You need to let your leadership and lobbyists in Washington know they didn't represent your views on this one. The point is, those who care deeply about preventing more and more gun violence will have to be as passionate. And as organized, and as vocal as those who blocked these common sense steps to help keep our kids safe. Ultimately, you outnumber those who argued the other way. But they're better organized. They're better. Financed. They've been at it longer. And they make sure to stay focused on this one issue during election time. And that's the reason why you can have something that 90% of Americans support, and you can't get it through the Senate or the House of Representatives. So to change Washington, you, the American people, are going to have to sustain some passion about this. And when necessary, you've got to send the right people to Washington. And that requires strength, and it requires persistence. And that's the one thing that these families should have inspired in all of us. I still don't know how they have been able to muster up the strength to do what they've doing over the last several weeks, last several months. And I see this as just round one. When Newtown happened, I met with these families and I spoke to the community, and I said, something must be different right now. We're going to have to change. That's what the whole country said. Everybody talked about how we were going to change something to make sure this didn't happen again. Just like everybody talked about how we needed to do something after Aurora. Everybody talked about we needed change something after Tucson. And I'm assuming that the emotions that we've all felt since Newtown. The emotions that we've all felt since Tucson and Aurora and Chicago, the pain we share with these families and families all across. The country who've lost a loved one to gun violence, I'm assuming that's not a temporary thing. I'm assuming our expressions of grief and our commitment to do something. Different to prevent these things from happening are not empty words. I believe we're going to be able to get this done. Sooner or later, we are going to get this right. The memories of these children demand it. And so do the American people. Thank you very much, everybody. Barack Obama. Speech on sequester impact at Newport News shipbuilding. Delivered February 26, 2013, Newport News Shipbuilding, Newport News, Virginia. Hello, Newport News. Well, it is good to see all of you here today. I want to thank your CEO, Mike Petters, for showing me around. I usually don't get a chance to hang out with nuclear submarines. Especially submarines that my wife has sponsored. So right there, that was worth the trip. But most importantly, it's a great chance to see the incredible men and women who, every single day, are helping to keep America safe and are just the bedrock of this country's manufacturing base. Thank you to all of you. I want to thank our outstanding Secretary of the Navy, Ray Mabus, who's here. There he is right there, the good-looking guy over at the end. I want to thank your mayor, McKinley Price, who served this nation bravely in the U.S. Army. I want to thank two outstanding congressmen who care about this facility. Care about Virginia and care about the country. Congressman Bobby Scott is here and Congressman Scott Rigel is here as well. Now, the reason I came here today, in addition to seeing just some incredible stuff, it's true. Every time I come to these places, I don't know how you all do it. It is just amazing work. But the main reason I'm here is to call attention to the important work that you're doing on behalf of the nation's defense. And to let the American people know that this work along with hundreds of thousands of jobs, are currently in jeopardy because of politics in Washington. In a few days, Congress might allow a series of immediate, painful, arbitrary budget cuts to take place known in Washington as the sequester. Now, that's a pretty bad name, sequester. But the effects are even worse than the name. Instead of cutting out the government spending, we don't need wasteful programs that don't work. Special interest tax loopholes and tax breaks. What the sequester does is it uses a meat cleaver approach to gut critical investments in things like education and national security and life-saving medical research. And the impact of this policy won't be felt overnight, but it will be real. The sequester will weaken America's economic recovery. It will weaken our military readiness. And it will weaken the basic services that the American people depend on every single day. Already, the uncertainty around these cuts is having an effect. Companies are starting to prepare for layoff notices. Families are preparing to cut back on expenses. And the longer these cuts are in place, the greater the damage. So here at Newport News Shipbuilding, you guys have made an enormous investment. Because we've said in order to maintain the finest navy that the world has ever known, we've got to make sure that there is an orderly, process whereby we are continually upgrading our ships, building new ships, maintaining our ships properly. And these are some big ships. So it's expensive, and it's complicated. And you've got 5,000 suppliers all across the country, and you've got to have some certainty and some knowledge about how things are going to proceed over the long term for Mike and others to plan properly. So you're rightly concerned. Mike is properly concerned about the impact that these cuts will have on not just this company. But companies and small businesses from all 50 states that supply you with parts and equipment. Mike was telling me that you guys have already made $1 billion worth of capital investment. You've got $500 million in training costs as you recruit and hire new people. Well, those aren't commitments that you make lightly. You've got to have the capacity to plan and have some certainty in terms of what it is that we're going to be doing. And you know that if Congress can't get together and plan our nation's finances for the long term, that over time some of your jobs and businesses could be at risk. Over at the Norfolk Naval Station, the threat of these cuts has already forced the Navy to cancel the deployment. Or delay the repair of certain aircraft carriers. One that's currently being built might not get finished. Another carrier might not get started at all. And that hurts your bottom line. That hurts this community. Because of these automatic cuts, about 90. 000 Virginians who work for the Department of Defense would be forced to take unpaid leave from their jobs. So that's money out of their pockets, money out of their paychecks. And then that means there's going to be a ripple effect on thousands of other jobs and businesses and services throughout the Commonwealth. Because if they don't have money in their pockets or less money in their pockets, that means they're less able to afford to buy goods and services from other businesses. So it's not just restricted to the defense industry.